Karen laughed at my prosthetic leg during the HOA meeting, openly mocking me and calling me damaged goods who dragged down property values. But when I calmly explained that I lost that leg pulling her son out of a burning vehicle in Kandahar 5 years ago, the laughter died instantly. The room fell silent, and her face fractured into a realization so raw and complete it would stay with her forever. My name is Franklin, and I am a retired Army Sergeant First Class. I served for 16 years before a roadside bomb in Afghanistan ended my combat career and took my left leg below the knee. I carry that loss with me every day, but I have never regretted it. That injury came from saving lives. I pulled 3 soldiers from death that day, including a young private who would have burned alive if I had not dragged him from a wrecked vehicle while our convoy was still under fire. What Karen did not know when she humiliated me in front of 50 neighbors was that the soldier I saved was her son, and that her cruelty would force her to confront exactly what my sacrifice had given her. I live in Riverside Meadows, a subdivision just outside Virginia Beach, Virginia, built in 2009. The neighborhood is home to many military families due to its proximity to Naval Station Norfolk and Joint Base Langley, Eustis. People here understand service, sacrifice, and respect for the uniform. I retired 3 years ago after my injury and long rehabilitation. I walk with a slight limp despite my advanced prosthetic, and I am proud of that limp. It marks a moment when I chose to protect others instead of myself. These days, I work as a veterans counselor, helping wounded warriors navigate the transition back to civilian life. For 3 peaceful years, I lived quietly in Riverside Meadows. My neighbors were supportive, respectful, and many were veterans themselves who understood the cost of combat injuries. Then Karen moved into the neighborhood 7 months ago. She had perfectly styled golden blonde hair and an air of superiority that immediately rubbed people the wrong way. She spoke down to others, complained constantly, and treated military families with barely hidden disdain. Within 2 months, she joined the HOA board. Within 4, she became its president. Her attitude toward veterans was especially troubling. She made remarks during meetings about military families lowering the neighborhood's image. She complained about veterans gathering at the community park. She objected to holiday displays honoring service members. Several families confronted her privately, but she brushed them off without concern. Eventually, she focused her attention on me. In my front yard, I maintain a small memorial garden honoring the fallen brothers from my unit. It consists of a simple flagstone area and a modest bronze plaque engraved with the names of the 7 men from my platoon who never made a home. It is dignified, carefully maintained, and deeply personal. Karen sent me a violation notice claiming the memorial was unauthorized landscaping and demanding it be removed. I ignored it. That memorial honors men who gave everything, and I would never dismantle it. She followed up with another notice and a $500 fine. I ignored that as well. Last week, the HOA held a scheduled meeting at the community center. Around 50 residents attended. I went because there were budget items on the agenda that affected neighborhood maintenance. Karen ran the meeting with her usual dismissive tone. When the floor opened for resident comments, I raised my hand. I said I wanted to address the violation notice concerning my memorial garden. I explained that it honored fallen soldiers from my unit and should be exempt from landscaping restrictions out of basic respect. Karen didn't even glance at the documents I brought. She said the rules applied to everyone, and that personal decorations didn't deserve special treatment just because someone had been in the military. I corrected her, saying it wasn't a decoration but a memorial for men who died serving this country. She replied coldly that while it might be meaningful to me, it still violated HOA standards and had to go. A retired Navy chief named Thomas spoke up, pointing out that memorials for fallen service members deserve respect and weren't the same as lawn ornaments. Karen's expression hardened. She said military people always felt entitled to special treatment, and that rules were rules. I told her calmly that I wasn't asking for special treatment, only basic respect for men who died in combat. That's when Karen stood up from the front table and stared straight at me. She said that maybe if I hadn't got myself damaged overseas, I'd understand how normal neighborhoods worked. She said they didn't need reminders of war and violence in a residential community, and that my memorial was depressing. Then she added that having someone like me limping around probably lowered property values anyway. The room went completely silent. Karen continued, oblivious to the shock around her. She said disabled veterans were fine for parades and holidays, but constant reminders of military injuries weren't welcome here. She told me to remove the memorial, or she would have it removed herself. Something inside me broke, not anger, but sadness. Sadness that another human being could speak with such cruelty about sacrifices she could never comprehend. I stood slowly, shifting my weight so my prosthetic made my limp unmistakable. I told her I lost my leg on September 14th, 2019, outside Kandahar, Afghanistan. Our convoy hit an IED. The vehicle ahead of mine was destroyed and engulfed in flames. The driver was killed instantly, but 2 soldiers in the back were alive and trapped. The room was utterly silent. I explained that I pulled the first soldier out while taking enemy fire, then went back for the second. That's when a secondary explosion hit. Shrapnel tore through my leg below the knee, and I lost consciousness. My unit secured the area and evacuated us. I looked directly at Karen and told her the second soldier I pulled from the vehicle was a 20-year-old private from Virginia Beach. He suffered burns and a broken leg, but he lived. I spent 6 months at Walter Reed learning to walk again with my prosthetic. That young private visited me during my recovery, and we stayed in touch. I reached into my jacket, pulled out my phone, opened a photo, and held it up for the room to see. A picture of me and that young private taken at the hospital. Both of us smiling despite our injuries. His name is Ryan Patterson. Does that name sound familiar to you, Karen? Karen's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryan Patterson is your son. I pulled him from that burning vehicle. I lost my leg, saving his life. The room erupted with gasps and stunned whispers as every head turned toward Karen. She stood frozen in place, her skin pale as paper, slowly shaking her head. No, Ryan never, he told me a sergeant saved him, but he never said who. He probably didn't tell you because he knew how you felt about military service. Ryan, and I have spoken many times over the past 3 years. He is a good man who understands what service truly means. Tears streamed down Karen's face now. I didn't know. I didn't know it was you. Thomas, the retired Navy chief, stood up from his seat. Even if it hadn't been her son, your comments were disgusting. This man sacrificed his leg for someone else's child, and you mocked him for it. Another resident, Jennifer, a military spouse, spoke with barely restrained fury. You told a combat-wounded veteran that he lowers property values. What kind of person does that? Karen was sobbing openly now, her hands covering her face. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know. You shouldn't need to know, I said quietly. Every person with visible injuries, every veteran with scars or prosthetics, every wounded warrior deserves respect regardless of who they saved or what they did. Your son came home because someone else's son gave part himself. But even if I hadn't saved Ryan, your words were still wrong. I gathered my papers and walked toward the exit. The room remained silent except for Karen's crying. At the door, I turned back. The memorial stays. Those 7 names belong to men who never came home at all. If you try to remove it, you'll answer to every veteran in this neighborhood. I left the meeting. Within minutes, my phone filled with messages from neighbors expressing support and outrage at Karen's behavior. That evening, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Ryan Patterson stood there in civilian clothes, with Karen beside him. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying. Ryan spoke first. Sergeant Davis, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I should have told my mother it was you who saved me. She and I have had issues because she never understood military service. It's not your fault, Ryan. Karen stepped forward, her voice barely audible. Franklin, Mr. Davis, I don't know how to. She broke down again. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. Through sobs, she forced the words out. You saved my son's life, and I called you damaged. You gave your leg so Ryan could come home, and I said you lower property values. I'm a horrible person. I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve anything. I looked at her and felt not anger, but deep sadness. Karen, what you said hurt, but I didn't save Ryan to earn gratitude. I saved him because it was the right thing to do. I will resign from the HOA. I will remove every fine against you. I will apologize publicly to the entire neighborhood. I will do whatever you want. I told her I wanted nothing except to be left alone and for my memorial to be respected. Ryan spoke again. Sergeant Davis, my mother has a lot to learn about service and sacrifice. Knowing that I'm alive because of what you did, it broke something in her. She isn't a bad person. She just never understood. Karen looked at me with desperate eyes. Is there anything I can do to make this right? I thought for a moment. Learn about the men on that memorial. Research their names. Learn their stories. Understand what they gave. Volunteer at the VA hospital. Spend time with wounded veterans and listen. Maybe then you'll understand what service really means. Karen nodded through tears. I will. I promise. She resigned as HOA president. The next day, she sent a written apology to every resident explaining what happened and acknowledging her behavior. She removed all fines against me and personally apologized to every military family she had offended. True to her word, Kara began volunteering at the Hampton, Virginia Medical Center. She spent time with wounded veterans, listened to their stories, and slowly began to understand the cost of service. 3 months later, she came to my door again. She looked different, softer, humbler. Franklin, I wanted you to know I've been volunteering for 12 weeks now. I've met so many veterans who gave so much. I've heard stories that make me ashamed of how I treated you. That's good, Karen. Those men need people who care. I also wanted to show you something. She held out her phone, showing a photo of a small memorial in her yard, a flagpole with an American flag, and a plaque that read, "In honor of Sergeant First Class Franklin Davis, who gave his leg so my son could live, and in memory of all who gave all." Emotion tightened my throat. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. I need to remember every day what you gave for Ryan, and I need to teach myself never to judge what I don't understand. Ryan continues to serve in the Army. He was promoted to specialist and recently completed his second deployment. He visits me often, and we share a bond only those who have faced combat together can understand. Karen has become one of the most active VA volunteers in the region, raising funds for wounded veterans and organizing support events. She has personally apologized to dozens of veterans for her past ignorance. The neighborhood elected a new HOA president, Thomas, the retired Navy chief. His first action was passing a resolution protecting military memorials and veteran displays from HOA restrictions. My memorial garden still stands, honoring 7 men who never came home. Karen visits it sometimes, leaving flowers and standing silently. She once told me she comes to remember what sacrifice looks like. The story of that HOA meeting spread throughout the military community in Virginia Beach, becoming a reminder that behind every visible injury is a story of courage, and every wounded warrior deserves respect. Ryan told me his mother is a different person now. She once believed military service was for people who couldn't succeed elsewhere. Now she understands it means choosing to protect others, even when it costs everything. I still see Karen around the neighborhood. We exchange quiet greetings. There is no friendship, but there is understanding. She looks at my limp differently now, not as a flaw, but as a reminder of what I gave so her son could walk without one. If you know a wounded veteran, take a moment to thank them. Share this story as a reminder that every scar tells a story of sacrifice. And remember, the person you judge for their disability may have given that part of themselves to save someone you love.